everybody. Welcome. Thank y'all so much for joining us tonight. So, tonight is a little bit different because I'm the one being interviewed technically, but really this is just going to be me and Rachel chatting about all the things. So, thank you guys so much for joining us. And I know we are open to all the questions, of course. A couple of little things. So, summer reading, of course, is going strong. We've still got 2 more featured author chats. So, Carol will have hers in a few weeks. And we also have Julie Mayerson Brown will have hers as well. We've got 2 authors of the Roundtable events, the Mid Challenge Boost with 4 authors. 3 authors and an illustrator. And then at the end, we're going to get to see Rachel again for the wind down, and she will be joined by 2 other authors as well. So we've got so much more to go. Book club is next week. Next Thursday night is book club, and we'll have another reader chat mixed in there as well. So that's all the things that are coming up. And now I'm going to stop talking about that, and let's get started with tonight's chat. So, Rachel, thank you so much for being willing to interview me and come on here and do this.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for letting me come in and quiz you. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I almost said good morning. I don't know what time of day it is.
I feel that so much right now.
Good evening. I'm so happy to see more faces in here tonight, and I'm looking forward to if you guys have any questions. We definitely got questions to ask, but I will make sure we have time. Joy, keep me on track because I don't have a clock in front of me. But first off, I'll just introduce myself really quick. My name is Rachael Ritchey. I'm an author. I write fantasy fiction mainly. I write some fantasy, and I just love to talk to other writers. I also do book design work for other authors, especially indie authors and some small presses. Tonight, though, I would like to help us find out more about Joy and what she's got coming up, which is something I'm very excited about. So, Joy, please remind us of who you are, and then tell us a little bit about the book you're going to be giving away.
Okay, so my name is Joy Rancatore, and I write a lot of different things. I write both nonfiction and fiction. The book that we're probably mostly going to be talking about tonight is the one that will be out in November. It's called Animal Vignettes, True Stories of Friendship, and it is a collection of stories about the animals I've had in my life. And what an impact they've made on me as a human. And so that is I guess really the main thing we'll talk about tonight. But as far as the book that I'm going to give away, whoever wins, it's really going to be up to them. So I have 6 other books. Yes, 6 other books. So if you want any of those, I've got my 4-book collection at Southern Fiction with Christian Roots. I've also got a nonfiction book, the blue one back there. That is I co-authored that with my writing critique partner, May Smith. And it is all about critique partners. And then I also have the little one there. That is the brainchild of Rachel. So that is the Crux Anthology, and I have a fantasy short story in there, and it is joined with 15 other fantasy and sci-fi adventure stories, which are all fantastic. And then, of course, if you're willing to wait until November, or actually probably before November, you will get that book instead, if you like animals. So.
And I gotta say, I did get to beta read it, an earlier draft, and it's an awesome book. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and if you love animals, you will totally identify with a lot of the things that Joy shares in the story. So, from the Animal Vignettes, even if you pick something else, what is something in that book that really you would use as a line that you think would draw people into the story? Like a favorite scene or something that really struck you when you were writing it?
I think, and I'm going to pull this up real quick, it was the one that I shared in our One Line Wednesday. And this was something that I think kind of became a little bit of a theme throughout all of the stories. But here it is. Animals are so much more than pets. Their stories mingle with ours until they become chapter titles in our lives' books. Animals are companions and friends. Animals are therapists whose hour is never up and whose door is always open. Animals are sounding boards, inspiration, and encouragement. Animals shape us into who we are. And my pets have absolutely done that for me. I've been blessed to have a number of pets over the years, and each one, as I've looked back and really thought through as I was writing these stories out. And at first, when I first started writing these, I'm thinking, oh, this is just going to be the fun stories, funny stories, sad stories about the animals. But then it started to just reveal how big of an impact they have had on me as a person.
I could totally see that. So we're definitely going to focus in on your author journey, but I don't know if everybody knows you're also an editor. You're a very successful editor. Actually, you worked with some big authors who are doing really well out there, whose books are making an impact in the genres that they're in, which is awesome. So that's one of your arenas that you're inside of. You're also a homeschool mom, and you have been doing that for a lot of years. I'm not going to say how many, but
we don't want to think back that long. Let's just say that our oldest just graduated, so it's been a while.
Yeah, that's so fantastic. So, I mean, you are putting on all these different hats, and you're also an advocate for animal shelters and pet adoption. And that, I think, has really taken off in your life in recent years. And then this book that you've written about animal vignettes, these stories of your own experiences with animals, just really reinforces why you're so passionate about animal adoption. I just think it's really cool how all those parts of your life kind of come together. And so, as a writer writing this book, who's this book for? What did you write it in mind? Like, what kind of people did you write it in mind for?
Oh, I think people like me who love animals and have had those experiences throughout their life with animals, I think is really my main audience, my reader avatar, if you will. It was kind of inspired. I never intended to write this. This is kind of scary because these are very personal stories because it's about my life. And that is a little bit out of my comfort zone. It's not something that I intended to write, but I lost one of my closest friends just a few years ago. And there was something in the grieving process after losing Casey that I just started thinking about animals because we shared a love of animals. She had basset hounds. She loved basset hounds. She also, when I first met her, had a chinchilla who was absolutely adorable. And so a lot of our times, a lot of our time together was spent with our animals around us. And so, as I was thinking through this, some of the stories include her because she was part of my animals' lives as well. And so that was kind of what nudged me to even start the process. And so it just kind of grew from there.
That's wonderful. And actually, you answered the next question I was going to ask you.
Oh, sorry.
So that's awesome. With Casey and that mutual love of animals, would you say that in the grieving process when you lost her, that was like a healing experience for you in a lot of ways, was writing this book?
It really was. And through that, I realized how much my animals have helped me heal over the years through other griefs throughout my life. And so I think that kind of became a theme that wove into a lot of the stories that I didn't think about before I started writing it. But yes, it was definitely a healing process.
Would you say that that's what you've experienced in writing some of your other books as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think even with fiction, like you learn so much about yourself because as writers, we pour so much emotion and so much of ourselves into everything that we write, even if it has nothing to do with us. It has everything to do with us because it's our experiences and our emotions and our like I taught a workshop today to some kids about sensory writing and like bringing in all of the senses, and I say all 6 of the senses because the 6th sense is not Bruce Willis's movie. It's emotion. and how all of those things, all of our tangible senses and the emotions kind of come on a palette of memories, and our memories get infused into everything as well. And then the really cool thing is when it comes to memories and emotions, the readers also bring their own emotions and memories when they read the book. So each reader is going to have a different experience when they read the book than the author even intended sometimes, which is really cool.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think that you could do the same when you talk about when one person imagines a character one way from the same exact description from the other person, and they'll show you, this is what I think the character looks like. This person is like, no, that doesn't look anything like the character. It's the same way with how we read the story itself and the outcome of it. And I think that's probably why when people review books, there's such a wide variety of, I loved this book, I didn't like this book, but I loved this about it, all that kind of stuff. So I think that totally backs that up, that idea. Well, how cool. So you got to teach a class today. Was that at your local library?
It was, yes. We had some teens who signed up for I've done a 6-part workshop, and so this was number 4.
Wow.
So I've got 2 more next week to wrap it up.
Very cool. You consistently have the same kids showing up for it, or do you have like new kids coming weekly or to each one?
Yeah, I actually had 2 or 3 kids who had been to the first 3, and they were signed up today, and for whatever reason they didn't make it. But then today I had 2 brand new kids I'd never seen before, and they were young, like super young. I kind of adapted a little bit because I was like, oh, these kids are younger than I thought, but I think they had a really good time, and what they wrote was so great. It's always inspirational to be around young writers because they're so excited and they bring such wide imaginations.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I love that. Actually, I really love getting together and writing with other writers just in general, just like, hey, let's all do writing sprints or whatever. I think that can be really energizing as a writer. And then, of course, when you have people who are excited about writing, that adds a whole nother layer to it. So the writing world has its own sort of fandom, I guess you could say, that readers have over whatever genre we're reading. Because when it comes to books, when I meet someone who likes the same sort of book, we get excited and we love talking about it. And then we find more books that we like together. So I think writers are doing the same thing, and that's so cool that you've got to do that with some younger writers and encourage them and see them get excited about the process and teach them some new skills. I think that's awesome. When it comes to your books, what was the most difficult part of writing? Well, let's focus on animal vignettes. What was the most difficult part of writing that as a personal account?
Just writing the personal accounts, like diving deeper into me and my mistakes and my painful experiences, and how that all relates to who I am today. That was the most difficult part. There were several times where I was like, do I even want to put this out in the world? Like, should I put this out in the world? And thankfully I have such an amazing support system. First and foremost with my husband. Has always been such a huge support. He reads everything that I write, and I call him my alpha reader because he's the one who, better than anyone else, he knows me to my core. And so he can read my stuff and tell me, I know that this isn't coming across the way that you're intending, because I know what you intend. And so that's super helpful. And he also will not lie to me. Like he'll tell me if like, oh, maybe you shouldn't put this out in the world. I think he would tell me that.
So, you might regret that.
Yeah.
I honestly, having that opportunity to beta read and give you some critique on it, which I was woefully lacking in because I enjoyed reading it so much. I think that writing such personal accounts, what I got out of reading the book was that you are making a connection for other people to heal through memories of their pets for different situations in their own lives, like so relatable in so many ways. I mean, I only had one dog when I was growing up, but the memories attached to that dog and how he made me feel are huge. And when I think back on the comfort that that was to me in certain times of my life, like I wouldn't trade that for anything because of the impact that having a pet made on my life. And sometimes I'm sad that we don't have any pets right now for that very reason. Like my kids aren't getting that same experience that I did. So I'm so excited about this book, and I keep saying that, but it's true. I think it's going to be great. I already have several people in mind who I think are going to love it, so I can't wait for it to come out. I'd like to go ahead and shift to more technical aspects of writing the book. So we've had some questions regarding the publication and the difficulty of collaboration that came on Facebook earlier. But I'd like to ask you first of all, what do you think are the most important parts of publishing a book, especially when you're self-publishing or an indie author?
The quality of it, taking it seriously, making it the absolute best that it can be. And that means getting professionals who can help you with it, because not everyone is a professional in every aspect of the publishing process. I mean, there might be a unicorn out there somewhere who is, but for the most part, maybe you got one or two of them covered, but you're not going to have them all. So admitting that and, finding those amazing people, like I found you. So Rachael has done the covers for all of my books, and she also does the formatting for them, and she is absolutely incredible at that. And you make this book real and beautiful, and that is such an amazing thing. So, yay.
I'm passionate about it, and I love beautiful books. I'm sure as readers, we all love beautiful books. I mean, we're all good with a good story. We love a good story, but there's something about picking up a book that just looks pretty on the outside, and you open it up and everything's just organized and precise and consistent, and sometimes, fancy with like extra details, depending on what kind of book it is. I don't know, there's something about that in books that as a reader, I appreciate. And so I want to carry that through into book design as well. And I think with your books, the coolest thing that I think about it when working on it with you is that you have a background in journalism and also some photography, probably because of the journalism and just a love of it. So in designing your books and collaborating with you on that, we've got to use your own photography for pretty much everything we've designed together with your Carolina's Legacy series. And I hope also when we do animal vignettes, the final cover that we come up with is going to have like your photography involved in it. I love what we've come up with so far, just like for fun, creative ideas, but I think that's really going to take it to the next level.
And so I love that. So Rachael has done a couple of mock-ups for me, y'all. I'm itching to like show, but we're not there yet, but we will be soon. But I'm the holdup now because her like second set of mock-ups just really stood out to me and got me really excited. And I was thinking more of the first round was more of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a little bit
illustrated.
Yeah, more illustrated, more whatever. And then the second was more of like a painting or a portrait, a picture. And I have in my head, like I know a place near my house, and I'm going to have my animals, and it's going to be the back of me. And it's just, I think that with the design that she's come up with, if I can get the picture the way I want, I think it's going to be absolutely perfect and amazing. So
I'm so excited. I can't wait for us to get that put together. The good news is that process, once we have the photography, it can move really quickly. I would like to move on to the questions that we had in the Facebook post, because I'm realizing I'm probably going very slow here, and I want to leave time for everyone to ask questions. So Terry asked in the Facebook, How difficult is it to collaborate to create a book cover design? From your perspective, how difficult has that been?
Be interested to hear from your perspective. I feel sometimes like I'm difficult. It's been an absolute delight, but also I have the opportunity to work with someone who's become a really close friend. So we met through the Crux. So Rachel had this competition for short stories to go into this anthology, and that's how I first met her. But then after that process and finding out she's a cover designer, because one of the prizes was a cover. That's how I got my first one from her and everything. But through over the years, we've become really close. And then she moved from Washington State to Florida, which is a lot closer to me. And so once a year, we actually do get together in person. So that has been amazing. So I think maybe my experience is a little bit different simply because I know her so well and we have become friends. And so it's easier to kind of have that back and forth conversation of, oh, this would be cool. Oh, this would be cool. That kind of thing. So
That it does actually make a big difference. I think the best part is, from my perspective, on the difficulty of collaboration is just being open to other ideas,
yeah.
and not being married to your first vision of something. Because even as a designer, I get a vision of something and I really like it, and sometimes the author does not like it. I'll give them like 3 options, and I'll have this one in mind that I really love that I think is going to be fantastic, but they'll choose the other one of the other ones, and I'll be like, no. So, but ultimately, the author, especially when you're working with indie authors, it's their deal. They get to make that final decision on which cover they love best of the ones that you've presented to them. And as a designer, I will go back to the drawing board over and over again to make sure that I come up with something that you love and that I can be proud of designing too. Because if I think it's terrible, I won't even show it to you.
Well, and you also know like the genre expectations. So like you
Right.
can tell someone like, hey, this really wouldn't work for your type of book. Your readers are looking for this kind of font or this style or these colors or whatever. And I very much value that because I don't keep up with that as much as I might.
Exactly. And you should definitely look for that when you're looking for a designer to collaborate with, because anytime you're doing a design for a book, the interior, the exterior, you are collaborating. I thought that was the perfect word to use in this sort of situation. So another question Terry had was, do indie authors have more creative control over cover design than those working with a publishing house?
Yes. A lot more, honestly. I mean, obviously I haven't been on that side of it, but from what I understand, it's very rare that an author gets a whole lot of say in their covers in a traditional publishing situation. So
yeah, it's actually very, very rare. There are the occasional publishing houses that will present you options as the author, but almost entirely it's going to be up to the publisher who picks the final cover. In fact, that carries over into the title of your book as well. Sometimes you don't get a say in what your title ends up being with a publisher. Whereas as an indie author like Joy, you do. You get final say on your title, you get final say on your cover, your interior design. If you don't like something, you can go back to the drawing board and start again. I think that's a huge difference between traditional and indie publishing. It also puts a lot more pressure on you, doesn't it, Joy?
yes, like with the titles, like yeah, Rachel knows the struggles. The struggles have been very real with this one.
What was your first title that you came up for Animal Vignettes?
Oh my goodness. I think I had like a filler title, but Animal Vignettes was actually the first one that I got excited about. And then I had some people express some concern that nobody knows what vignettes means and you're just like, nobody's going to pick that up. And so I dropped it for a while, but nothing else did well for me. Like it just didn't fit. So I went back to it. So for better or worse, it's my fault.
Yeah,
But
you
then
can
I
take
struggled
all
with
the
the
credit.
subtitle because it's like the subtitle can give people a little bit more information about what's to come.
For
Um,
sure.
so yeah, I struggled with that too.
The struggle is real. Um, if if you had not called it animal vignettes, what was the next top choice that you had?
So I thought about comfort and fur, or comfort and fur, something like that. Um, I don't know. There were some other ones. Terry had a really good idea. I can't even remember what it was now. It was really cute. Um, oh goodness, I don't even know. I feel like there was another one that I did put on there earlier on, but I don't even remember what it was at this point.
That's all right. You know, in comparing it to something like the chicken soup for the soul sort of books,
Yeah.
like animal vignettes could become like a whole series of books, and it could always be called animal vignettes with a different subtitle: chicken soup for the soul, for the Christian soul, for the dog loving soul, for the whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
Um, because that
Well,
kind of goes along that same vein. Like, who's thinking chicken soup? What? So
yeah.
I wouldn't worry too much about vignettes. I think people will get the idea,
Yeah. I hope
especially if they pick it up and read the back and take a peek inside at the beautiful formatting.
so. Yes, because it's going to be gorgeous.
Terry had one other question. She wants to know what's the most challenging part of designing a cover. So, for you as the author, what's been the most challenging part?
Oh, well, I think for me is like I struggle to envision things. Um, and so I'll think like we're talking about going back and forth with the fonts. And so I'm like, oh, I think it needs to be thinner, or it needs to be broader, or it needs to be, but I don't know. And like I can't know until I see it. And so I feel bad because I'm like, oh, she's having to like give me another example because I can't picture it. Like I just have
Yeah.
this idea, but I don't know if what I'm thinking is right or not. And Rachel's so amazing to just work with me on that. But yeah,
Oh, there's so much to access, so much font choices, pictures with between stock photos and public domain images, and all the fonts that are available that are open source fonts. Like, we could pretty much go a million directions with a cover design. So a lot of it is narrowing down the genre, the subject matter of the book itself. So not just the genre, but going even deeper to understand like what is the content of that book, and also the author and their brand, like trying to stick with that branding information. Like with this one, we're probably going to go with the title being Joy's Red that she uses for her website and different things, which I'm very excited about. I love red. One of my favorite colors. So, um, so yeah, so with all of that, it's totally, as a designer, I have access to a lot of stuff that makes it really easy, and it can be fairly inexpensive when things are open source or public domain. So it doesn't cost Joy a whole lot extra, or me a whole lot extra, to get resources to make a beautiful book cover and to make it fit what you envision. I think from the designer side, the challenge is when you want to get your writer's, your author's vision and make it into something physical, you have to really be able to interpret what they're saying, and also keep in mind the genre that they're writing in and try to marry those two things together, because sometimes it's not the same. So I think Joy does an excellent job. She has a great eye for detail. I think being a photographer and a journalist, she pays attention to those smaller details. And she understands, the rule of threes and color combinations, and what really draws the eye. So that definitely makes it easier in a collaboration when the author has some kind of um, idea, and they're also open and not stuck on the one idea, open to other ideas that might improve upon whatever they're imagining. Yeah, and I think Joy, you do that very well.
thank you. You're amazing. And I always do feel like I'm like, oh no, I'm so indecisive, or I don't know what I'm trying to say. I don't know how to express what I'm trying to say. But Rachel somehow like translates my crazy. So it works.
Not as crazy as she thinks she is. It's good. I've talked to some crazies. All right. Well, at this point in time, I would like to ask you, Joy, is there anything else that you would like to say in addition for your books that how readers can engage with you as far as your books go or your author experience? Like, where can they find you? What books do you recommend? That kind of stuff.
So the biggest thing, and tomorrow in our group, my little Friendly Friday thing will be to subscribe to my newsletter. So if you don't already, that is the best way to keep up with everything. Of course, I'm on social media, and I haven't been as active there as I have been in the past, but that's why I always say newsletter, because that's my focus, to make sure that I get that stuff out. But yeah, so that's probably the best way.
All right. And then one more question from me. What is one thing about the process of writing a book that readers may be interested to know?
That it takes, I think this is something that people aren't aware of, how many rounds of revisions and edits there are. So you have your dumpster fire first draft, but that is the quickest part of it all. And then the revisions and the edits do take a very long time. In some cases, months, years. It takes a very long time. But that's where, as I have told my workshop people all week, like that's where the magic happens. It really does. It becomes this magical thing as you add in layers to the stories during those parts. It makes the characters deeper. It makes the stories come alive off the page and draw the readers in to feel like they're part of it. That's when that stuff happens. And it's pretty amazing to go through the process.
That's awesome. I totally agree. It's an important process, and I think people want to skip over it.
Yes.
I think after a while, though, you learn to love the revision process as a writer.
Yeah, it took me a while too. So yeah.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and open up to questions from everybody here in the chat. So if you have a question, just raise your hand and we'll call on you. And you can, well, I guess, Joy, if you can look at it in the comments, if people just would rather type up questions, that would be awesome, because I'm using my phone, my camera and microphone are better than on my laptop. So it's hard to pull everything up. So you can leave a question in the comment section for Joy, or you can just come off the microphone and you can ask your question.
Okay, so Faith is asking, can you explain the process of getting a book published as an indie author? That's a really great question. So as an indie, I am basically my own publisher. So I do have my own publishing company. I set that up. It is actually an LLC in the state of Louisiana. But basically that just means that I am responsible for all of the moving parts. So like a publisher would be. So like I hire out to Rachael to do the cover design and the formatting. We can get editors, we can get book coaches. Sometimes indie authors use book coaches, other things like that. Sometimes they use publicists to help with that part. I would love to have the money to have a publicist, really would, but it's not in my budget right now. But as all of that, you have your people that help you with those parts of it. But then as far as taking the book, and once Rachel's done her beautiful work and made it an actual book, she sends me those files, and then I upload those files into a few different places. So I use Ingram Spark is the primary one that I use, and that's the company that prints and distributes print books and ebooks to places like bookstores and, of course, online distributors, and they also distribute to the companies that libraries order from. And so that's kind of my primary. I also do use Amazon just strictly for Amazon's platform. It's a little bit complicated and wonky, but it makes it a little bit easier for people to find it there since I upload it directly to them. But that's the only way that I use them. They do also distribute widely like Ingram does. I choose not to use them for that. And then there's one other, it's called Draft to Digital, and I use that for ebooks because they do distribute to a few other places that Ingram doesn't. So that's what I use. And then from there, like everything else, marketing, getting your name out there, that's completely on you. which makes it feel a little daunting sometimes because I don't have a big team of marketers behind me, and I don't have, I have to prove myself to libraries and to bookstores and to all of the gatekeepers, to book festivals, to all of those things. And so it can be a little bit of a daunting thing, but I've made some really amazing friends and found people who are very open and welcoming to talented indie authors, and I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, that's great. That's a really full answer. There's so many different pathways in indie publishing. That's probably the most common path that people take. It's a combination of publication arms, so for your printing and your distribution, and then there's all the important things that other authors have in a traditional publishing house that you are responsible for taking care of, with your editing, your cover design, your formatting, your marketing. And I will say, not everyone that does traditional publishing gets good marketing. That's something that they kind of reserve for the big authors. Like if you're a smaller author at a publishing house, you oftentimes will not get any marketing either. So it's kind of on you. But the problem is with that is that you then have to go and ask your traditional publisher if you can do certain marketing things. They don't always allow the same things that you can do as an indie author. So there's a lot more flexibility and control in that arena as a indie author as opposed to a traditional author. So I will point that out as a thumbs up for indie publishing.
It's a good point.
Are there any more questions kind of spurring off that or something completely different? Any questions about? Yes. Go ahead, Lisa.
So I just started reading your book, Any Good Thing, and my question is, ironically, because the book that I read, just finished reading, is about a soldier coming back and having to deal with PTSD from the war in Iraq. And so in a similar vein, while she's kind of going through her recovery process and she enters, spoiler alert, she enters AA to kind of like help her cope, you have this character going through a very traumatic experience and coming to a rehab facility. So I guess weirdly those two kind of coincided, but I was wondering what research did you do for at least that portion of the story where your young character is going through the rehab process?
So I had, and if this gets cut off, guys, I'm gonna put a link for us to come back together real quick. Okay, so just check that post. So I did 3 kinds of research for this with Marines who actually were in Iraq. So they were able to give me some of that, like boots on the ground information. And they read some of my stuff. They answered tons of my questions. I also had medical research that I did with doctors and nurses and paramedics. Like they gave me a whole lot of information on that aspect of it. And then I also, as a journalist, I did a lot of work at a Christian rehab. So I had like that knowledge of being in a place like that. And I also have a background in counseling. I did some master's counseling classes. Hey, Rachel. It's totally my fault. I was supposed to be keeping an eye on the time.
Sorry. I was like, I knew I should have had a clock closer. I realized I have a little one here. I'm sitting next to my computer. I should have looked at my screen.
Well, I think I answered her question before it cut off. I don't know.
Yeah, mostly.
Mostly, yeah.
We could always get more clarification later if need be.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, and that was a really great question. I'm glad that she asked that because that's something I love to talk about is having expert readers or expert, people that I can ask questions to. In addition to like just doing research online, like that's not always enough, especially for things like this. So.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, because you're always, the biggest problem is that not everybody's experience is the same.
Right.
So you could like totally hit one person's experience and they'll be like, that's right on, that's exactly what it's like. And then someone else is like, that's nothing how it was for me. Like, that's totally not true. Because people handle emotional situations so differently, and our minds and our background, our previous experiences all play into how we react to it. So you might make one person really happy and another person be like, that's so fake.
And that's why you get the 1 star and the 5 star sometimes.
Yeah. Exactly. For sure. No, I thought you did an excellent job of balancing the emotional turmoil and the healing process. And anyway, I think you did an excellent job. And I know you made my husband cry, and that's hard to do. So, you know, a story hits some of the right notes when you can get him to cry.
I know, my husband cried too. So, like, yeah, he's always like, will you stop making me cry with everything you write?
Yeah, what is with that? Yes. Yes, reading your animal tales, I did cry, and then I would laugh, and then I would cry a little more.
I throw in some humor, you know.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good balance. It kept me reading. I wasn't like, throw this book across the room because it's making me cry over and over. I didn't throw it because it was on my computer. I had to pick up my computer and throw my computer.
So I don't have military experience, but I have plenty in my family who do. And so just from like talking to my brother who was in Iraq, I felt like, you know, it really rang true to me just based on things that he shared. And so,
well, that's cool.
Yeah.
yeah.
And, you know, it's something that I think some people aren't really aware of. Like, if you don't have family who served, or you haven't been around people who have served, you may not know the struggles that they have.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So,
yeah, sensitivity readers are a whole nother topic that someday it's a minefield that I would like to enter and just tiptoe through.
Yeah. So we need to have like a conversation about that.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, I know just like one little detail on the sensitivity reader thing. I know an author who had been writing her book for probably at least 5 years. And she got to the stage where she was ready for publication and all, and a sensitivity reader had some concerns. And 10 years later, that book is finally out in the world.
wow.
So they're important, but like you said, one person's experience and another person's experience, even if they're the same kinds of experiences, they can be completely different.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge to.
That's something to keep in mind. Yeah. And unfortunately, it's easy to be offensive without meaning to be offensive because of someone's previous experience.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a sensitive topics. It's hard of balance to find.
It is. It is.
I thought Any Good Thing was a very fair and kind look at those kind of traumas in a person's life. Yeah. For sure. I know it's not part of our original interview, but Anna would like to ask you a question.
Oh, yay! Absolutely.
Come on over and ask your question.
Okay.
You want to be on camera?
No.
Okay.
I. So when you had a story that you really wanted to work on, but you got writer's block on, what would you do?
Oh, okay. So writer's block. Oh, I get asked about this a lot. So I don't think it exists. I don't think there is such a thing as writer's block. But I do think that sometimes we get in our own way. So usually one of a few different things has happened. Either something's going on in my life personally that's got me where I just can't focus on the story or continuing the story or something like that. Or I've written myself into a corner. That happens a lot. Or I've written myself into a hole is probably more likely. And so the thing that helps me when that's the situation is to try to find another scene. Like if I know something that's going to happen later, see if I can start writing that and just leave a great big blank where I was and move ahead and start working on something else. And often that kind of kickstarts things and helps me get over that hump. And then I'm able to go back and bring it all together. So that's typically what happens for me. Or if it's like an emotional thing for me in my life, sometimes I may just have to take a moment, or sometimes I may need to figure out what's going on. Find a way to de-stress. For some people, it's to take a walk. For some people, it's to just have a movie night or something like that to kind of get their mind off of whatever the situation is. Or it could be to journal. Journaling is really huge for me. I like to do that for my personal life. So those are the most common things that are going on when I hit a block. And I feel like that's fairly common amongst writers. There's something causing it. So if you can figure out what the cause is, and if you can just kind of work around it, it typically helps.
That's great advice.
Okay.
Does that help?
You have another question? Oh, she has more questions.
Oh, awesome.
How do you come up with names that aren't impossible to pronounce or aren't really common?
Oh, that's a good question too. And I would love to hear what your mom has to say about this too. So for my fantasy stuff, the story that I started in The Crux, that's a whole big world that I have been working on behind the scenes for almost 10 years now. I think it's been 9 years. And so I do have a lot of names, and they're not all easy to pronounce. And I've thought about that, because I know that some people don't like names that they don't know how to say. But like what your mom did in her book with having the glossary and like showing how to pronounce them, that's super helpful. I think that I will definitely do that. The way that I come up with the names, a lot of them are, I get some inspiration from Latin or from Scottish names sometimes, like Celtic stuff. I look through like mythology stuff and pull names that way. I even did I think I got some inspiration for some things from Dungeons and Dragons stuff. So I kind of pull things like that together. Yeah. Did that answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then when you're writing, oh, sorry. Let me formulate the question.
For me, when it comes to naming things in a fantasy world, a lot of times I try to make sure that the names are a little bit uncommon, but fairly easy to figure out. I do find that people still pronounce names differently than I do. Like Idra, a lot of people say Idra or Idra.
Yeah.
And I say Othniel, but some people say Othniel. But they're close, and it doesn't really bother me very much. A lot of times I'm just like, you know what, you're the one reading the book, you read it and say it however you think you're most comfortable with. But when it comes to an audiobook, I would like them pronounced like I pronounce them.
Yeah. That's when you get to direct.
That's right.
Do either of you have audiobooks?
I don't, not yet. I'm thinking hopefully this summer I might actually try to record at the Beauty Thief myself. I'm so picky about the people that I've had audition to read and just how they interpret the story, and they interpret it a lot younger than I would, even though it's fairy tale like. It's not a children's book, and a lot of times I hear them reading it that way, and so I'm just like, I just need to read it myself. And I love voice acting, and I love reading. I don't do like major voices or anything or accents, but so anyway, I figure I can do a good enough job. to at least get it in audiobook. We'll see.
That's so exciting. Oh my goodness. So my plans are for this summer too, if I could get the time, my plan is to do Animal Vignettes as an audiobook, and I will be narrating it because they're my stories. So it makes sense for me to be the narrator.
Yeah.
So
That's
I
going to be
think
so
that one's a really good candidate for an audiobook.
for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's a great one to start with too. I'm excited.
pull it off.
Remember the question now?
I needed to formulate it.
Okay.
While writing, has there ever been a time where you just don't know like how to do the details, so you just write without details? And if so, do you struggle with going back in and inputting details?
Oh, that's a really great question. So, yes, I do struggle sometimes. And typically what I do is I will make myself a note. You know how you can do notes in a Word document, or sometimes I'll put like all bold or all caps or something in the document itself. And I'll just put need and then whatever it is that I need. And I'll put it there. And then I just move on, because one thing for me is like I have a tendency, I could get stuck if I am upset that I'm not getting what needs to be there down. I can get really upset and bogged down in it, and then I get stuck. That's one of those blocks, and then I can't move forward. So I don't want to do that. So I just type out whatever I need to type out, and then I move on and I keep going. And then sometimes I may come back to it if I have an idea. Like sometimes it'll come to me while I'm asleep, or I'm supposed to be sleeping and I can't go to sleep. Like it'll dawn on me, oh, this is how I need to fix that or whatever. And so maybe the next day I come back and I put it in. But more often it's when I come back with revisions and all of that is where I start filling in those gaps. And that's where I add in all the sensory writing, like how is the character hearing things? What are they experiencing? Or do they feel the rain on them? Things like that. That gets put in later. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And do that with the character names too. Sometimes the character will pop up that I haven't named yet. And so I'll just put in here, need to name character. So I'll just like say a description of the character, their personality or something, and then I'll move on.
Yeah.
And just like, I might do that over and over again for a section. One of them, actually, this is a funny story. And this one, only people listening to this and Cassie know, because this is my other daughter Cassie's brainchild in a way, which is hilarious. I was writing and I didn't know what to name this one night, and so I just put Sir and then an underscore, just a blank line. And she's like, underscore is his name, and I was like, that's his name, and so he is Sir Underscore in the story. So that's his name, underscore. Yeah. So literally, that's going to be a little inside joke. So now you're all in on it.
I love that. Oh my gosh, that's so great. Well, thank y'all for coming back on. This was fun to have a little extra time.
It was. Thank you.
Oh, and
thanks for letting me interview you. That was so fun.
Your questions were fantastic. I loved them.
Yeah, it was great. Well, I guess we'll let you go so that you can all enjoy the rest of your night. So good to see your face. Trying not to trip over my words there.
Yes. So it's I really love to talk to other readers, because I just feel like so few people read anymore. And so, I mean, I love books so much, and it's so sad that I don't know who to share it with, So Joy gets all of my literature memes that I stumble on because
I bet she loves them too.
Because I'm like, I don't know who else will even get this joke, Because I thought my cousin really loved Pride and Prejudice, and so I sent her one of my Pride and Prejudice memes. She had no idea what I was talking about. I'm like, oh well. And I was like, don't you love Pride and Prejudice? And she was like, that was my mom that loved
Oh.
it.
Well, you should share with me. I love Pride and Prejudice. I'll probably.
So, are we Facebook friends, Rachel?
I don't know. I can go look.
I need to look and see.
I'm not on my Facebook enough, I think.
Yeah. But if I send it in Messenger.
But I get notifications.
Yeah. Because if I send it in Messenger, then it doesn't matter how often you're on. It'll be there whenever you get on. So.
Exactly. I feel like we are, but I just have to double check.
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, yeah. I will share my literature memes with you too. So it's very funny because I also teach literature at our homeschool co-op.
Oh, I love it.
And so, like, when we read Pride and Prejudice in Brit Lit, like, I put all these memes because we have Google Classroom. So I put all these Pride and Prejudice memes up, and the kids are like no reaction, no anything, you know. And one of the moms is like, what are those things you're putting up in the classroom? I'm like,
memes.
Okay, maybe that's not the best audience then.
It's got to be somewhat entertaining for people who've never read the book and are having to read it, especially teens. Like, they should get memes. That's so
you know,
millennial cultural,
right?
So because like I teach a world literature, and I always I try to dip into a little bit of all different cultures. Like, I picked books, and so when we get to Russian literature, I have a meme, and it says like, American literature is like, I will die for honor, and you know, French literature is I will die for love, and Russian literature is I will die. And
exactly. I'm just gonna die. That's all there is to it.
and like for the Russian literature, I don't even make them read a book. We just pick like a novella because Russian lit is like so many pages. And it's really funny because we have a used bookstore here, and Joy and I are friends with the owner, and he loves Russian literature, and I'm
That's
just
so
like,
funny.
okay, I just don't get it. Like, I only do Russian literature in my class because I feel like they should know these names, and so I introduce them to I introduce them to a lot of the authors. I talk about different periods of Russian literature. And then we read one novella, just because I'm like, if you're going to college, you should have a general idea of the big names, you know?
Right. I think that is fair, and that is actually above and beyond what some kids get in a public school setting.
So, but I mean, I have other stuff that I just completely love, and they don't get it. Like, they don't understand, you know. Have you guys read Cyrano de Bergerac?
You know, I have not read it, and I always think about it. It'll probably be on my list of audiobooks to listen to, but
the thing is, it's a play, and so unless somebody has really good voices, an audiobook is going to be harder to follow. But I found this when I was in high school. Like, one of my teachers mentioned it to us, and I went and read it, and it's like one of my all-time favorite stories. And so I that's what we do for French literature. I'm like, yes, you're reading this with me. And they just don't, like, they don't get it.
It's such a good story.
It's such a good story.
I love the Roxanne adaptation of it with Steve Martin.
I know. I don't like that one because
it's totally humorous.
I know, because I don't think the story is funny, you know? Because like when we read it, I make them debate like the ethics of it, and you know, like, did he make the right decision? Because it was totally like the honorable thing, right? Only I'm like, but was that really the ethical thing? And so,
question. That is a really
so I mean, I always try to have them like dig into a story, not just like, here's a story, but like, think about what's motivating these people, or like, was that a good decision? And so, and
I would love to have you as my teacher. Can I be in your class?
Right?
So
Will you do a class for adults?
we really like, I know. We really should do like a book club where we read, like go through classics and then debate things like that.
Yeah.
So that would be fun because like I said, like I have so few friends that are readers that it just breaks my heart because I'm like, I can't even discuss this with you because you have no idea what I'm talking about. So anyway,
That's something that I do love about books and animals. I've noticed like those are two things that really can connect people, like in ways that other things may not be able to. So like when I talk about my animal tales book, I've had so many people, their faces just light up, and they may or may not be readers, but it's the pets, it's the animals.
Yeah.
They're really excited about that. And so that's just kind of cool, you know, to have that connection.
So I mean, I kind of see how you compare it to the chicken soup, but like, I didn't like the chicken soup for the soul books that much. Like they were so like, I don't know, so cutesy, and it was like everyone's supposed to teach a lesson, and it's like reading guideposts. And so, right? And so I read one and then I'm like, okay, I'm just done with this. And so to me, your book has another flavor to it. Like it's not always happy endings. It's not, you know, and so I really liked that, the realism, and like you say, like this was a mistake, or you know, that here. And so, cause the chicken soup for the soul ones, well, like I said, I quit reading them because I'm like, life just is not always like this. We don't always have happy endings. So, anyway.
We do like Russian literature.
Well, okay, well, not exactly, but I know. I talked to Andrew the other day. I was like, why do you like Russian literature? I just don't get it.
Did he have an acceptable answer, or did it still leave you wanting more?
Well, I mean, it sort of just comes down to like, Andrew and I are just really different people. But like for this summer reading challenge, you were supposed to read a book written by someone in your state. And so I know he has a poetry book. And so I went in and I was like, hey, do you have any of your poetry books? And he's like, well, he said, I sort of keep them hidden. And he said, but if you want to buy it, I'll sell it to you. And so I said, okay. And so he's like holding it and he's like, this is really raw, Faith. He's like, he's like, but it's like with Joy's book, like that you read it and it's like he gave you this little glimpse in his soul because he's a vet and he has PTSD, and so the book kind of gives you that little glimpse into, like, you know, just the raw ugliness of life sometimes. And so
but some of it's really good and some of it's painful.
Yeah. And so, but I think like it was almost hard for him to turn it over, you know?
I'm sure. Yeah.
And he has a little stash of them and he literally has it hidden. Like you have to know it's there and ask for it. And so,
I need to get one. I haven't gotten one yet. I'm going to do that next time I go in.
Yeah. So anyway, but well, ladies, great to talk to you.
Yes, y'all too. Thank you guys so much. This has been fun.
Yes, I know. Adult conversation
about books.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Well, thank you again, Rachel.
All right.
Thank you for answering my question.
You're so welcome. Thank you for the great questions. They really were great questions.
All right. Good. Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.